Hello everyone and thank you for joining our class today. Today we are going to talk about how to create weaknesses into the enemy camp and how to take advantage of these weaknesses. So the topic of the webinar is playing against weaknesses, but I would like to continue with the homework that I provided you last week, because last week we were talking about the Ukrainian variation of Sicilian defense. It's also known as Gotham Sicilian because of two reasons. So first of all, this is what uh, the famous chess blogger Gotham Chess recommends to play in his chessable course. This is what also he plays himself in his blitz games on chess.com. And also I found a lot of games played in this let me show you in this position recently by Ukrainian grandmasters. So that's why, well, we can call it Ukrainian variation or Gotham Sicilian. So there were a few things that we needed to discuss here. So for example, that was one of the positions that we were talking about. And here I ask you, well, they played bishop g5. How should we react with black pieces? Well, if you guys have any suggestions, you are welcome to share it. Just for you to know, the webinar is a recording and it's also streaming on YouTube. So by the end of, well, actually, tomorrow, I'm going to send you another email with the homework based on what we cover at today's webinar and with the recording too. So yeah, just let me know if everything works and you have any questions and we can start. So looks like there are only people who attend my webinars regularly. Maybe someone else will join. Today is the Father's Day in most countries. That's why we expect just a fewer participants. Okay. So yes, thank you, John. Well, yeah, I was also thinking about building a kind of a chess community, and I don't know which where I should do it. So, what do you think if Discord is a good idea? So, if it's possible to create a Discord group and communicate there, like create a Discord channel where we can discuss things that you need to work on to get better. You can share something that happened in your chess games, especially if you don't know how you could react. Well, so what is better to use? Well, we have what? WhatsApp channel, but looks like there are only fewer people there. And there is no possibility for you to share anything, only I can post there. There is a Discord channel that I can create, Facebook group, chess.com club. So anything you, in your opinion, makes sense, well, you can share. So I think that the most promising at the moment is actually Discord. There is also a possibility to create a Telegram group, but well, I don't think that Americans use Telegram. It's mainly Russian and some Europeans, but Telegram is not so popular in the United States nowadays. Okay, well, there is a club on chess.com, for example. Anyway, so, well, maybe you need time to think and then you'll share with me later. So let's talk about this position, the one that I'm sharing at the moment. Well, what can we do? Looks like they force our bishop to move, and there is nothing wrong with such a move like bishop c5. Bishop c5, they probably defended with bishop h4. So, well, it looks playable, but if, well, this is not what I want actually. So bishop c5, Well, maybe bishop c5, they can even play h3, and after knight f2, our knight is trapped. So yeah, it looks suspicious actually. I thought that white has to defend the pawn, but looks like not. There is h3 move. So it doesn't make sense. Well, bishop a5 is playable, but the best thing that you can do here is just to take on c3. Why? You ruin the enemy pawn structure, and strategically you're winning here. So then, well, this bishop is annoying. Let's chase it away. The bishop goes to d2, I think, because if it goes somewhere else, let's say to f4, you can just keep developing your pieces and you can still occupy e5 even if you think that your pawns will be double there. So, for example, bishop f4, king s7, h3, and knight g5. So they take, you take with the knight, they take, you double your pawns, but then it seems you have a very strong center. And maybe you will advance the pawn to d5. I would first prefer to advance it to d6 and improve my bishop. Actually, maybe even b6, because I want to keep the c file open to attack these pawns, because this is the main strategic advantage of black. Okay, anyway, so the bishop comes to d2 after f6, which this is the most logical. And then we can play knight g5. So we can exchange there. So let's say take, then what? They can try f4, but knight comes to f7. Then king s7, b6, bishop b7 looks like a good plan. Because then white has to protect the pawn on e4 with the bishop. They have a bishop pair, but look, they are totally restricted with these bishops. And these two are huge. Yeah, this is a huge problem. These two double pawns is a huge problem. Okay, fine. So, well, if knight d4, let's say with the idea of doing this move later, then knight a5 is a super move, which allows you to control the c4 square. So sooner or later, if you want, you can exchange your knight for the bishop and obtain advantage here. So that was one of the homeworks that I provided you with. There was another one, let me show you. Yeah, if you remember, there was this line where I told you that queen c7 is a very nice move. But the alternative to queen c7 is before e takes, b takes, f takes g7, bishop g7. Now it seems they just gain a pawn. And our task is to get enough uh, compensation. So queen f6. They have to stop it with this move. There is no better way. Because, well, knight d4 at least loses a pawn back. So this move, and this is where I asked you how to play. Do you guys have any ideas? So a5 with bishop a6 coming. Possible, but seems to be slower than immediate actions that you can take right away. Okay, so thank you for your suggestions. What else do we have? Knight b4 seems good. Then Georgios says no. Well, actually, it does look good. And John also suggests knight b4, queen e4, knight d5. Knight b4, queen e4, knight d5 to not blunder the knight. Or just d5. Well, d5 seems like a blunder. So actually, yeah, knight b4 looks good. Yes, knight b4 seems good. We gain a temper. How they can play? Well, queen e4 seems the only logical continuation. Then our rook is hanging. So rook b8. Then we would like to maybe play d5 and chase this queen away to capture on c2, because if we play d5 right away, then queen takes b4. So that's why let's first protect and then threaten with d5. So that's why they have to solve this issue maybe with this move. And then bishop b7, let's say. So because d4 knight is protecting on c2, then maybe we better just develop our bishop. So queen goes to g4, then you can play queen e5, let's say. Then you can play this move. There is a lot of activity for you. So queen f4, for example, they offer in exchange, and this. So you are down a pawn, but you have two active pieces. You're about to enter the enemy territory with knight f4. You can also pressure through the c file. So it is considered to be playable. For example, they castle and you just play bishop f4, threatening at the exchange, and this is how you weaken here. And if you take, you'll be threatening g2 as well. So yeah, well, it's actually risky for them. So if they play bishop f3, which is quite logical, then bishop takes bishop, knight takes, and you just play rook g8, and they are in the danger. Well, just 92, 93 works. I also like rook g8, so it's completely fine. So the move that your task was to find was knight to b4. Okay, fine. So we are done with it. Let's continue. Let's continue and let's talk about our main topic today. So for today, I prepared two games to analyze, one to play and two other as the homework. Let's take a look at this position. Mikhail Botvinnik was playing against Georgy Zhilagi. So what do you think about the position? Maybe you can identify any weaknesses into the enemy camp. We are analyzing it as white. So yes, and while you're thinking, let me tell you something. So first of all, weaknesses is one of the vital element of the chess game. And when you're trying to play against weaknesses, it may contain either tactical means or strategic means. There are two types of weaknesses. There can be a square which is weak, and you can take advantage of this weakness by occupying this square with one of your pieces and improving it. So that happens when you can attack such a square and your opponent can hardly defend it. Or you attack it several times and he attacks only once or twice. Um, there can be a weak pawn instead. So it's basically the same, but when you are attacking the pawn, the key idea is not to occupy the square that the pawn occupies, but just to capture this pawn and obtain material advantage. So there is a weak square and a weak pawn that you should attack. Also, there are other drawbacks that we should pay attention to. So, for example, well, there can be the control over the file, which would allow our pieces to enter the enemy territory. In such a case, we can say that the whole file is weak and we can take advantage of it. Also, the king can be the weakness. So the king, but it's mainly not about what the king do, but how easy it is for us to attack the enemy king. So if the king isn't well placed, we can attack it, and this is how we can say that the king is weak, and we can convert this king's weakness or by initiating the attack. Also, not well, you know, there is one square that can be weak. It's a square that you can attack and your opponent can hardly defend, but there can be several squares in a row located on the one file or diagonal. And this is how we can talk about the weakness of the complex of squares. So, and well, this is what we are also going to cover today. The key idea to take advantage of the weakness of the squares, of the complex of squares, is to uh, attack these squares and invade the enemy camp by locating your pieces at these squares. Okay, so here Peter suggests a5 looks good. Anybody else? A5 looks good, but this move will be played. Okay, so Joanna suggests a very nice idea. I have two Johns. John's Logan and John Lugren. So, okay. So, have we already identified the weak squares in this position or weaknesses in general? So we didn't already identify these weaknesses. So this is what I want you to do. Well, guys, there is a very important specific thing that I kindly ask you to do every time when you don't know which move to play. Well, yeah, let me just tell you a story. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with my student Natalia. She is from Russia and she is actually a lawyer. And there was a special tournament conducted for lawyers in Moscow, and she was able to defeat everyone. So she got the absolute first place, not only in the women's section. She defeated everyone there. So there was also Sergei Karakin there. Well, he's not a lawyer, of course. He was just like a star who was invited there, like a celebrity. So, and well, he was answering questions. So Sergei Karakin was answering their question. Natalia asked him, well, what do you do when you don't understand which next move you should play in the game? And who can guess the Karakin's answer? So many of you may think that he says, okay, I'm just playing a waiting move to see what my opponent does. But he he answered it well. Unfortunately, well he answered it. It never happens with me. I always know what to play. Can you guess why? The I think well, it's mainly because of his huge experience in chess. So he's playing so many games, he's so familiar with the pawn structures, and he goes through a certain algorithm every moment he has to play a move, and he even doesn't think that he automatically goes through this algorithm. Which algorithm I'm talking about? Uh, well, every time you don't know what you should do, you need to evaluate the position. You need to decide who is better, but what is more important, because of what you are better. So if you're better because of material advantage, then your plan is obvious. Exchange pieces, pass the game to the end game, and realize your material advantage by making a pass pawn, for example. Um, well, if you have a better placed king, attack the enemy king, right? So, and you understand what you typically should, how you should attack the king. Well, maybe it was a pawn march, but it depends on the position. This pawn march shouldn't weaken your position. Or maybe you bring the pieces to the king side to attack the king. However, usually there are just some very small benefits and drawbacks. So, for example, could have a better pieces arrangement. So your pieces could be better located. And then in order to play a perfect plan, you should find the best way to coordinate them. Probably you need to open the position. Maybe you just need to open some files. Maybe you need to improve some of your pieces, and then other pieces will be well coordinated. So you need to understand your drawbacks and benefits. So advantages and disadvantages. For example, if we look at this position, we can definitely say that white is better. But what are these factors that tells you that white is better? Well, first of all, it's the control over the center and better pieces arrangement. So look, this bishop is bad. This bishop is somewhat okay. Uh, this bishop is nice. So the knight is well placed. But this knight is not a good knight. So these pieces are bad, but all minor pieces of white are relatively good. What else? The center. White controls e4 and d5. Black controls e5 but doesn't control d4 because they cannot set any pieces to d4 because compare it to the black's position, white has the pawn which simply stops it. Black doesn't have such a pawn to stop d5. So d5 and f5 are the squares that you need to occupy. And so here, John Vaughan suggested the idea of doing knight e3 and knight d5, which is quite interesting. But unfortunately, knight e3 fails because of knight f6, and they cover d5. And this exchange won't favor us. So that's why it's too early to play such a maneuver, but we keep it in mind. So we evaluated white is better because better pieces, the control over the center, and maybe a little bit more space on the queen side, which potentially allows us to think about doing a5 and maybe a6 or a5 and maybe b6. But b6 sacrifices the pawn, so that's why you need to think whether you play a6 after a5 or just wait. Okay, so yeah, let me. Okay, so there is another suggestion. Knight. There is also h4 bishop g5 idea to provoke f6, and then knight goes to d6. Well, I don't see how the knight goes to this. Then they exchange on d6. Okay, yes, this is this idea, because if f6 happen, then you may take, and then you can occupy d5 with the bishop, which also does make sense. Well, I'm not sure if you should trade such a knight. This is the only knight, and the best place for the knight is definitely on d5. So if you cannot avoid it, then you have to trade it. Um, What else? Improve your worst piece. Yes, improve your worst piece can be a part of your plan. Well, a6, probably Brian thinks about a5. Well, a5 is definitely a move to consider here. But Winnick swapped on d6 and then repositions the bishop to c4 and d5, like what we are discussing. So Brian also suggests f4. Okay, so here the closest suggestion was by John Lugran. He said that h4 and bishop g5 should be played. But actually, John, you don't need to waste temper. h4 is not required. Bishop g5 should be played right away. So how does it work? Well, easily, because if queen takes g5, knight d6 provides you with a strong advantage. How does it happen? Well, rook c7 is a blunder, the bishop is trapped. Rook b8, which defends the pawn on b7, doesn't look good because of bishop c4, and this is a weakness. Well, how to defend? Rook f8, maybe? Well, it doesn't look good because at least we can play rook f... Well, which rook to play? Maybe this rook to play, actually. So rook f d1 to play. Well, maybe just queen d3 to play. Yeah, queen d3 looks good. Queen d3, we are threatening to attack from that side, as well as we just want simply to capture there and take this knight on d7. So probably they need to play knight f6 to stop it. And then I think knight f7 should work. Let's say this, and then knight f7. So they take on f7, and so this, and double attack. So we gain a piece back. We also convert this pin and gain the exchange. Well, yeah, something like that. So bishop g5 means that queen g5 is a blunder. Doing knight f6 is means that we have to stay under the pin for a very long period of time. Then knight e3, knight f5 doesn't work because there is a knight. Knight d5 is a concrete threat because then white can take advantage of the pin. So this knight goes there. Knight d5 is played anyway, and where the queen goes. So if the queen goes here or there, it's bishop g4. No, let's say here. Well, I don't know if bishop g4 works immediately, but I think that at least we can exchange. No, wait. No, they take with the queen. Okay, I think that bishop g4 should work right away. Yes, it works right away because if they take on d8, we take on g4. If they move the knight to the safe place, we take on b6 or escape. So yeah, bishop g4 works. So the queen has to go there, and there is still a pin, and white improve their position. It's also possible to continue with bishop g4 to chase this rook away, and then, sorry. So queen f8, bishop g4, he goes there, and then we can play this move. The bishop is trapped. Very nice. So knight f6 doesn't work. That's why the only logical thing is this, after which this bishop has to move because it's under attack. Bishop e3, and now, yes, it's bishop c4 and bishop d5. Maybe bishop d5 is not required at the moment, but can be played later in case if we need to close the file. So the game continued with this, king goes there. So what can we say? Well, white is definitely better, and well, their pieces is better, and black pieces are miscoordinated. They don't know what to do. So this bishop can go to d5 to attack b7. What else? This queenside activity is quite dangerous. So white can, well, look at this position and compare it to this position. So white improved. White has a bishop pair that they are likely to convert. a5 was played, bishop goes to c7. So how to continue? Well, white is just trying to improve in their pieces. Rook fd1, knight f8, and the knight coming to e6. So because white doesn't want it to happen, they play this move. This move also protects the pawn on a5 because we expect the rook exchange. So that's why it's a multifunctional move. Rook d1, rook takes d1, rook d8, the rooks are exchanged, and it seems that black is closer to a draw because the position was simplified, but actually not. What do you think white should do in this position? There was a certain thing that Botvinnik had in mind. So black has most of his pawns on dark squares. That's right. If we can, I don't know if you can take advantage of it. We have a dark squared bishop, but they have a dark squared bishop too. Okay, so I see, guys, your suggestions. So you mainly suggest to play queen e3, but what if just b6? Do you want to enter the enemy camp through the A file? I don't think so, because I think in that case, bishop takes on b6. Why? It looks like the bishop acts as a pawn, right? So it's a big pawn. No, it's not, because there is a possibility to improve this bishop later. Because in this position, The bishop is completely useless. It's even more a pawn than it is on b6. So bishop takes b6, and then potentially there is a weakness on c3. So queen e3 can be played, but it doesn't lead to anything concrete. Any other suggestions? Okay, let me show you. You remember I was talking about the complex of weak squares. So yeah, bishop d5 deserves attention, but right now it doesn't do anything specific. So a6 was played. Why a6? So first of all, we close the queen side, which means that we prevent any counterplay. We are threatening to take here and there. So that's why they have to take immediate actions. And it seems that it's either take or push. If they take, we take with the queen, and with the queen we enter the enemy camp. So we are threatening to play queen c8 after that and try to grab both pawns. So, and we can also use the light squares. But it seems that b6 is a better move. And what now? Looks like black has to defend the position with the only moves, and white invades enemy camp because now there is a complex of squares being weakened that you can invade the enemy camp through all these squares. So I think actually it does make sense to start. However, well, queen d2 to maneuver to d5 wasn't played, I think mainly because of 96. So he wanted to avoid 96, or maybe he didn't want queen d2, queen d7, this immediate exchange, because the h3 is hanging too. So that's why he played king g2 first. Queen went to d7 and queen e2. Knight goes to g6. Okay, wait a sec. How do we invade enemy camp? Who knows? So what do you think white should do to invade the enemy camp with their pieces? So, so Peter suggests bishop g5. Well, but how does bishop d5 invades enemy camp? It's, well, you invade with the bishop, but then what? Bishop c6 or h4, h5? It's logical. I agree. So keep it in mind. Anything else? Queen g4, but queen g4 leads to a queen exchange. And because the position is closed, I'm not sure that you can win with two bishops. So guys, okay, I see. You want to suggest the queen. So when then f4 should be considered. But well, the problem of f4 is that they are not forced to take. So let's say queen g4 or queen d2. Well, let's say I play what, h6. I want to bring the king somewhere. So f4, but they may not take. King h7. If you take, the knight takes, and your position becomes even worse. So you cannot play like that to increase the pressure. There is a pawn on g3. So you can try g5, but it actually doesn't help. They take, you take, and they are completely fine. Let's say knight e7 or knight f8 and king g6. So looks like the position looks like a fortress. But there is one way that you probably missed. We can invade the enemy camp with the queen, and because of that, we play this move to get the queen to c4 and to threaten a dangerous check on g8. Because knight e7, queen c4, the knight is covering it, right? But it still allows us to enter the enemy camp through f7. And this queen has to defend the position because otherwise queen e8 leads to to a quick queen. So they play king h7 here. I don't know if they had a better move, but let's say they played this. So what do you think we should do? I like bishop e6 move here. It's also possible to deliver this check. He goes there and then deliver this check due to this pin. But then the king may escape. He can also escape to h8, and I don't understand the point of doing it. So that's why I would probably play this, because now I want to deliver this check and play this move. Maybe, guys, you can tell me a better way to play here. Actually, it seems there is a better way. There is a better way. No, well, it's fine. Yeah, well, if you want, you can suggest your comments um, not directly, but in the group chat. Because it looks like you have different suggestions. Okay, now g4, g4, then, okay, g4, h4, this. Okay, yes, but it seems that queen f8 still works. This, then, well, this is a blunder, actually. So king goes there, then we play this move. No, wait. No, we play there, then he plays this move. And we can capture on h6, because if the king takes, it's likely to be a checkmate. I think there is no way to stop this. Well, f5 maybe. Well, it should be a check. Oh, queen g7. Yes, it should be a checkmate. And if knight g6, we just take with the pawn. Yes, it's a winning position. So bishop h6 works here. And if they take with the pawn, then queen f7, king goes there. Then what? Queen f6 or queen e8? Well, queen f6. Queen f6. Queen f6. King h7. And we just gain a queen, right? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So maybe it was because queen d6 is so bad move. But how to play? Well, yeah, I have no ideas. That's why king h7 was played, which doesn't change anything. Then bishop c4 to prevent the invasion of the queen on d3. Queen d6 was played. Well, it seems now queen f8 doesn't work because it's not a check. So h4, queen d1, queen e8. Now we are threatening with a checkmate in 4. So it's h5. And then it's bishop f7 and bishop g6. Knight takes, pawn takes, checkmate. So that's why they need to take some action. So they play f5. I think h5 still is a good idea here. Yeah, h5 is still a good idea, but e takes f5, stops the king from escaping. So they took with the knight, and the game ended quite quickly. So this, bishop f7, and on the next move it's queen g8. So that's the end. Let's repeat it. Let's repeat the main idea. So first of all, d5 is a very good spot for the knight, but this strategy with knight e3, knight d5 fails because they can play knight f6. That's the reason why bishop g5 was played, because this is just a simple tactics. If queen takes, knight takes d6, and white wins because of the concrete weaknesses in the enemy camp. So that's why f6 is a must. And then we would love to play this, but the bishop is hanging, so we go there. Well, if they don't take, then maybe we can move. We can play f3, bishop f2, and still do this. But at least we can take ourselves and do what Botvinnik did in the game later. So it seems that black has no other choice but to take there. And then by playing a5 and then a6 after the exchange of the rooks, we created the complex of weak squares that we can enter, that we can use to enter the enemy camp. So ideally, we would love to either relocate the queen and the bishop in a different order, or just occupy d5 with the queen. So that's why Botvinnik plays queen e2, bishop moves back, and queen to c2. And there was nothing that could stop it. So he created the complex of weak squares and was able to enter the enemy king to enter the enemy camp by doing a battery with the queen and the bishop on b3. Okay, so we have the second example to discuss. Well, let's take a look at this position. So here white didn't play the opening stage of the game properly. What would you suggest for black? It's actually Catalan, I think. There was an exchange of the pawn on c4 for the pawn on c6. So, and it's, well, black looks fine. So, first of all, what do you need to do? You need to evaluate this position and exactly tell why one of the players is better. What is the main drawback of the player who has a weaker position, and if this weaker player is about to take some immediate actions to improve his position right away. So what are your suggestions? Okay, so while you're thinking, let me make a small pause and just to remind you guys that if you want to support my webinars, there is a link that you can use to donate. So this is the link that I'm going to copy in the chat. So if you want to support me and make sure that we continue our webinars on a regular basis, every week at least, so it makes sense to support me by doing a donation on PayPal. So you click on this link, enter the amount you want to donate, and then go through and send the payment directly through your PayPal account to my PayPal account. So this is how it works. Okay, so the link will be copied to the chat. I think it's already in the chat. Now let's go back to the game. So what do we have? There are several suggestions. So yeah, okay. Marble suggests a very, very nice idea that I think some of you guys definitely missed. Okay, so Peter, yeah, so thank you for promoting my Chessable course, Evaluate Before You Calculate. Yes, it's about the evaluation of the position and based on it, you are looking for the lines you should play. But it's more practical. It's more about calculation rather than strategic way of realizing weaknesses. However, from that course, you can learn that your plan should be based on the evaluation. So, right. So here we are just looking. My calculation course that is published on Chessable covers uh, the the 7 criteria algorithm, which allows you to evaluate the position properly. But it's this course is about calculation more. So the next chapters are mainly what techniques to use to calculate, what mistakes to avoid, and so on. So I okay, so here John Legrand identified that we should take care about the C file, so we should move the rook to the C file and then wait to the C2 square, which means that we already enter the enemy camp. So rook C8 is a very nice suggestion. Well, which rook? The A or the F, actually? But I think, guys, you are missing what Marble told us. White is about to play e4. Let me do the analysis uh, myself. So, well, here, black is definitely better. More space, better pieces, the control over the C file. These pieces are almost out of the place of action. The bishop is attacking the pawn, which is several times protected. The knight is not doing anything. It can go there, but even on e5, the knight is not really doing much. But if they play e4, they are likely to open their bishop, as well as exchange our potentially active knight on f6. So that's why we shouldn't let them play e4. This is the way they can equalize the position. That's why the first move we need to play is queen b6 to make e4 a blunder. Because if you play rook fc8, then after e4, you are likely to experience issues because of this diagonal. You can play rook ac8, but it's still e4, and he improves the bishop on g2. So when you are trying to evaluate the position and you take a decision which plan to initiate based on the weaknesses of your opponent, think about what he gonna do on the very next move and what potential plan he may initiate. Okay, so that's why queen b6. Now the pawn is hanging. They have to play either this or e3. By playing e3, they potentially weaken the d3. But I think with this move, they also realize that the bishop is useless here. So the bishop should move to f1. So rook ac8, bishop f1. Now what? Let's enter the enemy camp, but not with the queen, because this queen is more active than this one. So rook c6 with the idea to double. Bishop a6, queen a6. So the queen can operate through this diagonal. Maybe d3, maybe e2 if the rook moves away. So here, there's several squares are weak, and knight f3 was played. Rook fc8. Well, this move doesn't make sense because it's rook c2 already. That's why queen b3. Well, there is no rush. Knight e4. This move may stop bishop d2. Well, for example, if now bishop d2, then rook comes to c2. And if the bishop goes somewhere, it's rook f2 simply. Or maybe knight f2. Okay, so one more thing that I need to mention. So Peter just told us about it, that if we don't play this, but play this and they play e4, well, we may not take. Let's say we play this move, but the problem is that this is a pin. So the bishop on e7 is hanging, so we cannot even take with the knight because bishop takes. We can gain the pawn there, but then the position becomes open, and this guy with these two bishops can benefit of it. Now let's continue from our prospect. So knight e4 was played, knight d2. So, well, to take on d2 means to improve their bishop. That's why we just invade the enemy camp. Knight takes e4, d takes e4. It's not a big problem to double these pawns. Moreover, we have better control over the d3, and sooner or later we can play this move, exchange, and then push d2. At least this is what we have to keep in mind. What else did we do with this move? We vacated the fifth rank. So if we somehow decide to focus on the kingside attack, it will be easier for us to transfer our major pieces through that file. Well, I'm mainly talking about the queen, like queen a5 or queen b5, then queen h5. But it can be also a rook transfer with this operation, in case if we decide to initiate the attack on the king side. But you should understand that there are some preconditions for the king side attack. For example, the enemy king's position can be compromised, or you have the material majority on the king side, you have more space there, or uh, you see that the enemy pieces are focused on the queen side and you can quicker move your pieces to the king side. So this is exactly what happened in this game. So white continued with a3, trying to improve their position, but in fact they are not even threatening to take on b4. And what now? Well, doing something like that, which first came to my mind, is interesting. But then how to play? Because d2, bishop d2. It still seems to be a losing position, but I don't see how black wins immediately because, well, they definitely cannot take because they lose the bishop. But, well, they can probably bring the king. How white can progress? So this is what I don't see. Well, queen b5 could make sense with the idea to improve the rook like that. But then f4 should be played sooner or later. And actually, instead of f4, there is, well, looks like this and these are the moves that win the game. But can you suggest anything for white in this position? What do you think?
No, sorry. In that earlier position, if black had taken on a3.
Yeah, we will talk about it a little bit later. I see the question in the chat. So just let's talk about this position, then we'll go to back to the analysis of b takes a3. So, okay, so there are some suggestions. Okay. So Brian suggests this move. Well, I'm not sure about rook a7, to be honest, guys. Why? Because then there is this move. So if rook takes, I checkmate. If you take here, I checkmate. If you deliver a check, I don't care. So that's why rook a7 definitely not. But there is a move rook a5, which attacks the queen. Well, you may say it's not a big issue. Let's move the queen to f3 and let's do this at the very next move. Right, but they can sacrifice the exchange. And they have already one pawn as a compensation. And we are not sure, I'm not sure that black succeeds with the kingside attack here. So, but white gets a clear plan. So they do this, they advance the pawn and get a passed pawn. So that's why e5 you're black, and I would have such a strong advantage. I wouldn't do this because I don't want them to sacrifice the exchange and close the c file for me. Well, okay, so let's talk about b takes a3 and b takes a3. Uh, yeah, well, after... Yeah, I actually think that white has to take, because what else white can do? No, let me just play a random move. And then it takes here, rook a6. No, it doesn't make sense. But it can be queen d3 this time. Why? Because the queen is hanging on b3, so if they exchange, we are threatening with two threats simultaneously. So that's why taking on a3 is a must. But then we can use the c3 square. right, Peter? So did you want to bring this rook or the other rook to c3?
The rook on 8.
So the eighth rank. Okay, so this rook. So queen b8. Well, I think bishop f8 is the suggestion. But, why do you think it's so beneficial for you to open the b file? Because in my opinion, actually, well, you cannot take on a3. And probably the bishop gets more space. Maybe they want to do this move. Maybe they want to do this, actually, to take advantage of the pin. So that's why, well, I doubt that the B file should be open. Well, what's your opinion? Do you have any better suggestions for black here?
I'm not sure if the rook on the back rank taking or moving to c3 was the best, but um, and I mean, intuitively, it looked like black was invading white's position, but maybe
Yeah.
there's nothing there.
So yeah, it looks like black is invading the white's position, but at the same time, you open the B file, which makes this rook potentially active. So that's why I'm not sure that this is the best strategy. Instead, it makes sense to keep the position closed and focus on the other place of action. So you should shift the place of action to the other side. Actually, this topic, how to shift the place of action, is covered in my other course. So if you want, I can share with you. I'm not sure if you want, but I will share anyway. Yeah, it's another course on Chessable. Yeah, actually, soon there will be my new course, Improve Your Tactical Vision, probably with a different title, but it will be. Yeah, I'm talking about the course Power Up Visualization, where I explain how you can change of focus. Yeah, this chapter explains, uh, well, how can we? Yeah, let's say we can take a look at this position. So this chapter explains how we can change the focus of the game from one side to the other side. So for example, b5 here was a mistake, well, by the first glance, because of en passant. They take here, but now looks like they have a strong attack on the queen side, but their king is weak. So by doing such things, you may quickly focus from one side to the other side. Okay, fine. So let's continue with our original topic. Here we are. So, well, if not queen b5 doesn't look good, and it's better to play queen b5 later if you want to focus on the king side attack. So, in other words, what do you need to do in this position to focus on the attack? So here there was a, well, rook c1 doesn't work right away, but there is a suggestion of doing rook a2, which in my opinion does make sense. Well, rook a2, what happens? Well, if they exchange the rooks, I think it is a disaster. Because even if they take there, how do they defend f2 this time? If they play this move, then we can bring the other rook to the game, and then queen b5, queen f5 looks much stronger. But I think they play queen d1 here. And now what? Do we bring the rook there? If so, then it can be rook takes, and if the queen takes, the queens are exchanged, and the black's position is not so strong as it was before. And if rook takes, then looks like the queen has to defend it. So they cannot play this move because they blunder too much. But, well, maybe a b3 can be played, so I'm not sure if this is winning for black. Okay, so not rook e2. Well, in the game, black focused on the kingside attack here. They played h5, which is a very nice idea. Well, white reacted with d5 to stop the queen's invasion and maybe to open the position more. So if you take, you activate the queen. If you don't, they take themselves and then they can exchange the queens. So what to play? Rook 8 to c4, blocking the queen. So we enter the enemy camp and we immobilize the queen for a while. Of course, the queen can move, but we immobilize the queen from doing any useful actions. So rook d1, he takes d5, and if they take, they lose on c1. That's why bishop d2, they're trying to improve the bishop and maybe attack this pawn. They're threatening with a discovered attack. But queen f6. The focus comes to the other side of the board. b2 is hanging. Well, they played rook a b1. Now, which move would you suggest for black? Okay, guys, I think you are suggesting a very nice idea. Yes, you all are right. There are two ways to take advantage. So some of you suggested queen f3, some of you suggested h4. That's right. So both moves work. For example, queen f3. Let's say they play h4 themselves to stop it. Then you can play bishop d6 and simply sacrifice your bishop, which provides you with a strong attack. So for example, well, I don't know what to play. No, let me take the pawn because I don't see anything else. Then you take, pawn takes, queen takes. So king h1, let's say, and simply rook c6. So this is enough. Well, you may take, you may not. If the queen d5, then you have to take. The king goes to the g file, you bring the rook, and these pieces are enough. I took on h4 because I didn't want the queen on g5 to block. So now what? They move there. We play queen h1, they move here, and we play queen rook g2, rook g2. Well, or just queen f3, rook g1 was my other suggestion, but rook g2 checkmates immediately. So h4 was played in the game. No, queen a4, they are trying to improve the queen and deliver a check. Queen f5, to not let the queen to go to the king side and help the king to defend. Queen takes a7, bishop goes to f8 to save the bishop. Queen goes to b8. Well, what do you think white has in mind by doing this move? And which move black should play because of that? Black sacrificed the pawn, but the position is still winning. Right, so thanks, John. Yes, it's yeah, thanks everyone. It's queen f4. Queen f4. There was nothing that white could do with their rooks. Because if, let's say, instead of queen a4, here they try to exchange the rooks, nobody cares. Well, okay, h3 first, take queen f3. You can escape, probably, right? Okay, okay, so if so, I'm gonna take, well, which rook? If you do this rook, I take here, actually. And this is how I gain a piece. If you do this rook, then I still take here. So maybe bishop b4 works. But after bishop f4, I already win with queen f2. No, there was nothing they could do with the rooks. So queen b8 with queen f4. That's why g5. G takes h4, g takes h4. Well, queen f4. Well, I would play queen h5, and on the next move I would do this with a decisive attack. But here, Mark Taimanov decided just to exchange the queens. So, and pass the game to this absolutely winning endgame. Why this endgame is absolutely winning? Because of these 2 pawns. So d4, they are passed pawns. b3, rook c6, they can take on b4, but these pawns are not dangerous. f5, e4 is protected, and the game is over. They played a few more moves just for you to see how to realize this advantage. There was a rook exchange. The rook comes here. Rook b2 attacking this. Well, rook b3, rook c8, and now we cannot take on b4 because there is a pin on the back rank, right? So rook b1, and well, now if let's say they play king f1, it's d3 threatening with d2. And that's why they play bishop d2. What do you think? What was the final move after which white resigned? So rook b2 is too early. Rook b2, he goes back. Well, e3 first. And if they take, it's rook b2. They lose a bishop. If they don't take, then their bishop is trapped. So this is how the game ended. It wasn't the best way, but Taimanov thought that this is the simplest way to realize that advantage in the endgame because of 2 passed pawns. What I actually want you to learn from this game is that by invading the enemy camp and occupying the squares which were weak into the enemy territory, you paralyzed the white pieces' activity. And because of that, his pieces were stuck, and you could just shift the place of action to the king side and take advantage of the complex of weak squares on that side. Okay, so there was a suggestion by Peter. How about a plan of rook d1 followed by rook d2 to get rid of this rook on c2? Okay, so probably Peter is talking about something like that. Every time this is played, there is a bishop hanging, so it's not possible. If I'm mistaken, Peter, just correct me and tell me where exactly you want to play rook d2.
No, that was
So it's right.
that's right. But yeah,
Okay.
white bad.
Okay. Okay, fine. So now we come to the last part of our class. We will start with the analysis of this game. And from a certain point, I want you to play the position against me. So let's again take a look at the position. Well, you may say the bishop is better than a knight, but not in this position. This bishop is completely restricted. That's why we can say that white is has a better pawn structure, and the white knight is better placed than the bishop. However, there is a the black's position is quite solid and looks like a fortress. That's why your task is to come up with a plan which allows you to take advantage of the enemy weaknesses. So the first weakness is definitely e6, but the other one should be created on the queen side. So, well, let me play a few moves here. So, rook comes to d1, and now the king comes to the center. Then, because black wants to double, c4, h6 prevents knight coming to g5, king g2, rook d1, rook d1, rook b8. So, well, now I want you to think about the strategic plan that white should initiate in this position to play for a win. After your suggestions, we will make a few more moves. Okay, so White king to a6. Yeah, it's looks like, well, it's definitely a long way. Okay, so there is a4 to restrict b5, but I don't think that we should be afraid of b5. Brian suggests doing this. So let me explain the idea that Brian had in mind and why b5 isn't a good idea. So let's say, okay, so in the game it was played rook d3, but let's say this b5, knight c5. What then? So take, check. Now they have to move here or there to defend the knight, but if this move, it's knight e6. So that's why it's actually this move. Then let's play. What do we play? Let's play this. King goes to f5, and I think there is a checkmate here with g4 at the very next move, or with this. And the bishop is also hanging, so probably rook b2 is a check, but I don't care. I can avoid checks by moving the king on g2. Well, and now I'm threatening with g4, so you can probably play rook b2, but this time I play rook f7. Well, maybe you just play g6 to escape with the king, but then I take here and g4 is still a threat. And of course, I'm already winning because of extra knight. So that's why the b5 move is not such a big problem, because then c5 is a weakness and there is a way to invade the enemy camp. So they just played bishop h8 as a waiting move after rook d3. But what was the point of rook d3? Okay, I'll show you. a4, not to stop b5, but with something else. Rook b3, king d7, and a5. So to undermine this pawn, if they take, then rook b5 at least, and both pawns are weak. That's why black here played king c6 to support the pawn on b6. And this is the position that I want you to play with white pieces. So I want you to realize this positional advantage. Remember, this is one weakness. Your task is to create the second weakness. And your second weakness can be almost anything. It can be a weak pawn, a weak square. It can be a pass pawn on the other side of the board. It can be your piece activity on that other side. So, okay. Let me share my screen. And I'm going to make a challenge. So, play. Custom. So it's not standard, but it's custom position. So 15 plus 10. Here, fin, and so this is the position that we want to play. I'm going to play as black. So who wants to play? Tell me your username, please. Okay, so we have several. Well, yeah. Okay, please enter and I will challenge you. Or I can actually use invite link also and post it here. I think it works. Yeah, click on the link, the game will start. But do not forget to make the first moves during the first 30 or 40 seconds. or a minute. I don't remember how much time chess.com provides us. Okay. So, Georgios, can you please click on the link that I pasted in the chat? Okay, a takes b6. Thank you. g4. Okay, g4 looks interesting. Well, let me think about the bishop. Rook d3. Okay, rook d3 with the idea of invade my camp with this move. Interesting. So probably I have to defend. I don't see a better move here. This. Well, I don't know. Let me just play rook c7. This one, a6. Okay, then I do this move, rook b5. I don't really see the point. So let me do this move, rook d6, king c7. So, okay, so we have 4 games. If anyone else wants to join, please let me know or just click the link. Okay, king d2. So, okay, parallax, yes. So here, rook d8, I can exchange, and my position will be definitely worse, but this is how I neutralize the rook. Rook goes to d3, so this is a must. Rook b5. Okay, let me just play this move. Rook b3, okay. Then I play this move. Knight c3. So the knight probably goes to b5. If I play e4, they take, I take, yeah, I play e4. Here I take, here I take, b4. Yeah, this is what I was expecting. So let me decide what is better, to take or not to take. If not to take, then I have to play this move. But I actually think that I should take. Because if I play this, let's say pawn takes, bishop takes, knight takes, pawn takes, and if rook b7, I can play rook d7, right? Actually, yes, it's right. But I think it's better if I take, because this is how my bishop becomes more active. Okay, king c3. So we exchanged the rooks. So king c7, knight e4. Okay, then I take on b2. Rook a3. Let's pass the game to the young game. Okay, fine. Rook b4. Let me activate the bishop. b4. So king c6 is the suggestion. And she takes b4, provides the enemy king with too much activity. But then I can activate my bishop with bishop g7, bishop d6. So I think I'd better keep the position more closed. So this move. I would love to invade the enemy camp, but I don't see such an opportunity at the moment. So, okay, let me just play a random move. This is not a good random move. This is a random move. Bishop d2. So bishop e5 provokes rook d6, rook d3, rook e7 or d7. What is better? Let's say this is better. a3. Okay, fine. Bishop g7, f4, right. So this can be the next move. I can play bishop c7 this time because so if I play this, it's knight f6. Let me play this. So knight f6 doesn't look like a danger. g3. Okay, I don't think I have any winning chances here, so let's just repeat the position. Rook a3. b7. Knight goes to b5. And if I play e5, the knight goes to d5. I don't think it's possible at the moment. So let me play this. Okay, king b3. So let's just wait. Knight c3. What was the idea of knight c3? Knight b5 maybe. Can I play king c5? This is a good move actually. I underestimated it, but let's anyway. King goes there. This. King takes knight d6. King d4. Yeah, let's play b5. Okay, this move. Then let's create a pin and try to take advantage of this pin. Okay, let's do this move. King f3 in this position. Now, what I like about king f3 move is that this move allows me to enter the enemy camp. But maybe this is a trap. King e2, let's say I try to capture this pawn. Maybe I can capture the other pawn. So it's risky, but... Because every time rook d3 may happen. I do this, king e2, I do this, rook d3 attacking my here, then king c7, rook invades d6, I take on h4. No, I don't like it. Okay, so what I can do is just to deliver a check and bring the rook back. b5, fine. So this pawn can be attacked only with this maneuver. So I'm fine with it. Where to move the king? To c7. Or to d7. King goes there. Okay. Then rook goes back. 95. Yeah, I was expecting it. So for here, I prepared. So for here, I prepared bishop f4. Uh-huh. Then I can take one of c4, c4, rook c3, king b5, rook goes there, I take here. Yeah, should be fine. Okay, this move. So maybe this. Yeah, let's do this. Rook b1. No, knight c5 is a threat. Mhm. So now what? I cannot play king a4, but I can play king c4. g3 I take. Uh-huh. Let me take. Rook c1, king. Oops, I cannot play king b5. Oh my god. That was a blunder. So king b4. Now I play b5 move. Okay, f4, bishop d4. This. But then king. Well, if I take the pawn, a5. So bishop f6, a6, bishop d8, a7. Okay. Nice. What I can do here instead. So king c3, a5, king goes there. And then after a6, I do this, then go here, but I still a7. Okay. So a4 is a clever move. So bishop f6, a5, bishop d8, a6, bishop b6. So this is how I need to play. Let's do this. Rook c7. It is. Okay, so we can repeat the position. This move. So preparing for f5. But I can first do this move. So bishop c5, maybe, or king b5 first. Okay, rook goes to d7. d4 goes here, I go here. Take, okay, c4. Rook f7. So bishop b4 is an idea. A7. Okay, no, I have to play this. Okay, rook goes there. Here, rook c7, fine. Well, it should be a draw. A7, right. So king c6 here. King goes to d3. What I have to play? King c6 maybe just. Check. Let's play c3. No, c3. c3. King d2. So e5 does make sense. b3, b5. No, I don't want b5. So I want to actually offer a draw here. King c4, knight d6. b4, go there. c2. g5. Okay, immobilizing my pawns. Okay. Knight goes there. h6 is vulnerable. So bishop c7. Bishop f6 maybe. Bishop f6. Because then knight h6. Well, the knight can go to g8. Okay, bishop f6. Here. The king comes to e4. So that's the point. So yeah, this is a hard one. So this move takes. No, well, this they don't take. That's the problem. Okay, it seems that I have to bring the king closer. King d6, king e4. Seven. Okay, let's play king d6. Okay, rook f6 now. So I may take or I may not. I may continue with this king move, but then they take my bishop. So I take that. So it's better to take. Maybe I can deliver a check instead, if it does make any sense. Looks like not. Okay, let's take. Rook c7. Okay, so here the king d2. King f4, right. So bishop e7. King c1. Knight d6. No, let me take the pawn. King f6. King f4. Okay. So h5 doesn't make much sense. The pawn is still a weakness. So king d5. Knight goes there. What's the purpose? The purpose is a Zugzwang. This is a Zugzwang, actually. So if I play with this move, which is logical, then it's knight f8, and I lose the pawn on g6. If I play with the king, I lose only 5. Okay, right. So you're winning. The next one. So knight f6 here. King c4. Okay, so this, but then I can check on d8. This move, king stops my pawn. Well, I can do this move. Rook h6. Let me deliver a check. King c4. Okay, then I have e4. Knight goes there. So if I go there, it's h4, right? Yeah, the king's position is really good. So bishop goes there, knight h5. I do this, then it's f6. And it doesn't work. But this is a winning position for me, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So I cannot bring the king to here because it's a blunder. Okay, guys, today you play really well, or maybe my position was so bad already. So I can play rook here to defend the pawn, I think. I'm not sure if it's a good thing. Okay, king f7. This is an issue. Rook c8 is a problem now. So I have to play this. Oh, this is not a good move at all, actually. Okay. f6. Okay, so king e6. Yeah, king e6 should be fine. So I cannot play this move, unfortunately, because then rook goes there. So I have to play bishop d6 only. And then black is winning. Okay, take. So before 94, so I have to take. Okay, so, and what then? Okay, let's say this. Well, yes, it's losing. The plan is obvious. The king comes here, then white starts advancing the h-pawn, so I'm losing here. Okay, another loss. So here I take on f6. So this is the plan. Let me capture the h-pawn. So what games do I have? So this is the one I won. Okay. This is the one I also won. Well, that's not sure. Well, it is winning. f5. Okay, yeah, it should be winning. So that game was parallax. So f5, c1. Okay, he plays this. I play that move to stop b6. And it's probably a draw too. Okay, h5. So what to play? Let's calculate. It's interesting. Mm, so probably I need to start with h4. Then knight b6, and this is where I need to calculate. So knight b6, I can play. So I take king takes. I play, let's say, king g2, king a7, h3, b6, h2, b7, h1, and we promote simultaneously. Then I can play a check and exchange the queens. But I'm not winning. Okay, so I cannot take it. If I do not take it, I can play king g3, let's say. Knight goes back to d5. I play this. Oh, actually, knight king goes here, knight here, this move. Knight goes to 3. So actually, it is a draw, and I have to accept it. So this. This. Yeah, I thought I was winning actually. So today my score isn't so good. Okay, h3. Then h2. So we promote simultaneously. White has extra pawn. So how can I draw the game here? This check. Mm-hmm. Mm, I want to come closer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to repeat checks, and I'm looking if there is a possibility for me to capture the pawn somehow. Right now, I don't see such an opportunity, but I think I can deliver the other check by doing this move. Right. Well, if I exchange, I lose, right? So king here, c5, this. Well, yeah, so I lose. So let's deliver another check. So now king c7, king a7, king e8. Well, moving to the a file is likely to be a blunder. Okay, so yeah, let's agree to a draw. Fine. So guys, you played well actually. Unfortunately, today we don't have time to analyze your games, but I think that it makes sense for us to look at the original game. To look at the game that Alexander Aleking played against Max Yubi. And from that game, I'm sure you can realize the winning plan because all you did it in the wrong way. What was the point of doing all this stuff? The point is to open the A file and enter the A file. So you should do it immediately because you may not get the second chance. I think only one player did it. I don't remember who exactly, but yeah, so you should take, and after that you control the A file. And because of the rook here, there is no knight d6. So bishop g7 and the rook invades the enemy camp. Rook c7, but this rook is still active. This is the second weakness because the rook comes and the second type of the advantage is that this rook is able to activate black weaknesses, and there is no counterplay for black here. So rook e7 defending here, but rook c8 check, the king goes somewhere, and rook g8, king c6. Looks it's fine, right? But now let's advance the pawn on the king side. This king c7, g4, king goes back, so king d3, check, king goes here. So rook f7, this is not hanging because of the well-placed knight, b3, king c7, king d3. Now the king goes back. Now this knight can go to c3, and g5 was played. So h takes g5, h takes g5, king went to c6, and the knight goes there to vacate the square for the king. So some of you did this move, king e4, they found this idea. Knight b5, rook goes back to e7. So the rook has to stay and protect this bishop, and the bishop has to stay and protect the pawn. Otherwise, the game is over. f3, king d7, and that was Zugzwang. So rook b8 attacking here. King here, check. So this is not an opportunity because of this move. The king goes there. But then rook c7. Why rook c7? Well, not because we want to exchange the rooks. It's because we want to attack two weaknesses. So the king goes to the back rank and rook c6. So this and these are weaknesses. Now one of the pawns is lost. In the game, Max Huey played this move, and after rook e6, the game was over. So now they have no ideas of how to protect g6. So the key idea was to invade the enemy camp through the a file and get the king to e4. So many of you did it.
What? Yeah. What was the computer rating for at that startup? Because I bet White had a big advantage.
White had a big advantage, right? So let's see, +3 and 4.
3.4. Okay.
3.4, right? So which year this game was played? Okay, 1922. Yeah, 1922. Okay, thank you guys for coming. We're gonna do the next webinar next Sunday. Again, if any of you would like to donate, and thanks for those who already donated. So you can use this link, look at the screen. Here, it's really easy. You can click on the button, a new window appears where you enter the amount you want to donate. For example, let's say $10, then you click to the PayPal button. It automatically redirects you to your PayPal and the money comes to my account directly. Okay, fine. So if you have any suggestions or anything that you want to share with me, any ideas of how we can create a chess community where people are helping each other, where you provide yourself with some material which can help you, where, for example, if you struggle with something, you can ask another, well, people in the chat and they are likely to help you, or maybe I will help you. So if you have any ideas in which messenger we may create it, and which messenger it will be more effective, please let me know. Okay, so this is the link for you again, and there will be the homework for you. So the homework for you will be these two games. So this position where I want you to start from the very beginning, and this game where I want you to start after this move. So f5 was played, bishop c4, and this is where I want you to continue for white to take advantage of the black's weaknesses. So that is the homework. I'm going to send you the PDF tomorrow. Okay, fine, guys. See you next Sunday, same time. Any ideas, any suggestions, you can send it to tricksofchess@gmail.com. So, see you next week. Bye bye.